A World on Edge, your 5-minute global briefing. Look, we get it. The world's a complicated mess, and sometimes it feels like you're trying to drink from a fire hose of bad news. This isn't about fear-mongering. It's about arming you with knowledge, the kind that empowers, not paralyzes. Here's what you need to know in just a couple of minutes.
All right, let's talk about the weather, shall we? Because it's not your grandma's gentle drizzle anymore, folks. We're talking mega storms, flash floods turning entire cities into swimming pools, and wildfires so massive they make Dante's Inferno look like a backyard barbecue gone wrong. And yes, before you ask, it's definitely getting worse. The last decade has coughed up 5 of the warmest years on record. 5. It's almost like the Earth's running a fever, and we keep giving it coal for chicken soup. Now, you might be thinking, John, I live in a place with perfectly reasonable weather. Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because climate change doesn't respect zip codes. It's messing with everything from coffee crops, and yes, that's a personal attack, to the very air we breathe. This isn't just about saving the polar bears anymore, it's about saving ourselves. So, what can we do, apart from building a bunker and stocking up on canned beans? Well, for starters, how about we stop treating renewable energy like it's a fringe idea cooked up by hippies in a drum circle? Solar, wind, hydro? These aren't just buzzwords, they're our best shot at dodging a full-blown climate apocalypse. And hey, while we're at it, maybe we could all ease up on the whole fossil fuels are awesome thing. Because burning them is like giving the Earth a giant pack-a-day cigarette habit, and we all know how that story ends.
Okay, let's talk about something else that's going down faster than a Kardashian's Instagram post: global food security. And no, before you ask, this isn't about whether avocado toast is still cool. It's not. This is about the very real possibility of millions, yes, millions of people going hungry. We're talking droughts turning fertile land into dust bowls, conflicts disrupting supply chains, and economic turmoil making groceries about as affordable as a private island. And guess what? It's hitting developing countries the hardest, particularly in Africa and South Asia. Here's a fun fact that's not fun at all. As of this year, a staggering 345 million people are staring down the barrel of a food crisis. That's nearly double the number from just 5 years ago. Let that sink in for a second. Nearly 345 million people wondering where their next meal is coming from. Supporting local agriculture is a good start. Farmers' markets, community gardens, buying directly from local producers. These aren't just trendy hipster things. They're about building resilient food systems that can weather the storm, both literally and figuratively. And speaking of weathering the storm, we need to get real about sustainable farming. Because the bottom line is this: food is a human right, not a privilege.
Chapter 3: Inflated Expectations. When your dollar ain't worth a dollar. Alright? Let's talk about something that's been hitting everyone's wallets harder than a toddler in a grocery store: inflation. It's that sneaky little thing that makes your money worth less and less over time. Remember when you could buy a gallon of milk without having to take out a small loan? Yeah, me neither. Those days seem like a distant memory now. It's like everything's gotten more expensive except our collective will to live. The cost of living is skyrocketing, and it's affecting everyone. And before you start blaming it all on avocado toast and lattes, although let's be honest, they're not helping. This is a global phenomenon, folks. It's not just happening in your neighborhood. From the bustling streets of Tokyo to the bustling streets of, well, everywhere, people are feeling the pinch. It's a universal struggle. We're talking about interest rates skyrocketing faster than a SpaceX rocket, making borrowing money more expensive. Central banks are scrambling like squirrels trying to hide their nuts, trying to control the situation but often making it worse. And economists? They're resorting to reading tea leaves because, frankly, nobody seems to know what the hell is going on anymore. It's a guessing game at best. And guess what? It's not just about tightening our belts and cutting back on unnecessary luxuries like, food and shelter. It's about survival. This stuff has real-world consequences. Families are struggling to make ends meet. And it's causing a lot of stress and anxiety. It's widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots, pushing millions into poverty, and making it harder for people to climb out of it. And making it damn near impossible for young people to afford, well, anything. Housing, education, and even basic necessities are becoming out of reach. First of all, let's get educated. Understanding the root causes of inflation and how it affects us is the first step. Understand how economic policies work, how they affect you, and what you can do to influence them, and how you can make your voice heard. Voting, participating in community meetings, and signing petitions can make a difference. Because knowledge is power, my friends, especially when it comes to your hard-earned cash. Financial literacy can help you navigate these tough times. Because the truth is, we're all in this together, whether we like it or not. Supporting each other and working as a community can help us all get through this.
Chapter 4. The pandemic isn't over, just the hype. Remember that time a global pandemic brought the world to its knees, exposed the fragility of our healthcare systems, and forced us all to become intimately familiar with the term social distancing? It was a period of unprecedented challenges, where every day felt like a battle against an invisible enemy. Well, good news everyone, it's still happening. The virus hasn't packed its bags and left. It's still very much a part of our lives. Okay, maybe good news was a bit of a stretch, but the reality is, we can't just wish it away. But the point is, while we may be done with the pandemic is far from done with us. Vaccinations have helped, but they are not a silver bullet. And no, I'm not just talking about the lingering effects of long COVID, although that's a whole other can of worms we really need to open. The long-term health impacts are still being studied, and they could affect millions for years to come. I'm talking about the fact that we're still woefully unprepared for the next pandemic, which, let's be honest, is probably just lurking around the corner like an uninvited guest with a nasty cough. Our preparedness plans are still lacking in many areas. The World Health Organization keeps dropping these little truth bombs about how global pandemic risks are higher than ever. They warn us, but are we really listening? They're talking about new pathogens popping up faster than TikTok trends, each one potentially more dangerous than the last. Antimicrobial resistance turning into a bigger threat than a rogue AI, making even minor infections potentially deadly. And healthcare systems around the world still held together by duct tape and prayers. Many hospitals are still using outdated equipment and are severely understaffed. So, what can we do to avoid another collective nervous breakdown? How do we build a more resilient system? Well, for starters, how about we stop treating public health like it's an afterthought, something we only care about when there's a full-blown crisis? We need to prioritize it consistently. Investing in healthcare infrastructure, particularly in underserved communities, is a good place to start. These areas are often the hardest hit and the least prepared. Because, and this might come as a shock, a healthy population is kind of important for, everything. It impacts our economy, our education system, and our overall quality of life. We also need to get serious about international cooperation. Pandemics don't respect borders, and neither should our efforts to combat them. Working together globally is our best bet for a safer future.
Chapter 5. Global Tensions. It's not just your Wi-Fi acting up. All right, let's talk about something that's more tense than a Thanksgiving dinner with your extended family. The current state of global affairs. It's like the world is sitting at a table where everyone is arguing, and no one is willing to back down. Because let's be honest, it's giving everyone major anxiety, and not the kind that can be solved with a weighted blanket and a cup of chamomile tea. This is the kind of stress that keeps you up at night, wondering what tomorrow will bring. We're talking about geopolitical rivalries heating up faster than a microwave burrito, global powers playing a high-stakes game of chess with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance, and enough military buildup to make even the most hardened generals sweat. It's a game where the stakes are incredibly high and the players are relentless. And it's not just happening on some distant battlefield, folks. This tension is seeping into our everyday lives, affecting how we live, work, and even how we communicate with each other. This stuff is spilling over into every aspect of our lives, from the gas prices that are making you weep at the pump, to the cyber attacks that are making you question the wisdom of having all your personal information stored online. It's a digital age dilemma that we can't escape. We're talking about flashpoints in the South China Sea that sound like they're straight out of a Tom Clancy novel. Tensions in Eastern Europe that are giving everyone flashbacks to the Cold War, and cyber warfare that's happening right under our noses, literally. These are not just stories, they are real and present dangers. In fact, did you know that in 2023 alone, cyber attacks targeting critical infrastructure jumped by a whopping 20%? That's a staggering increase that should make us all sit up and take notice. That's right, folks. Our power grids, our water systems, our hospitals, they're all potential targets in this brave new world of digital warfare. The very systems we rely on daily are at risk. So, what can we do about it? It's a question that weighs heavily on everyone's mind. Well, apart from building a Faraday cage around our homes and becoming completely self-sufficient, which, let's be honest, none of us have the time or the energy for, we need to start by understanding the stakes. It's about being informed and prepared. That means educating ourselves about global alliances, the motivations of different actors on the world stage, and the potential consequences of unchecked aggression. Knowledge is power, and in these times, it's our best defense.
So, there you have it, folks. A crash course in the 5 major global issues that are shaping our world today. And yes, I know it's a lot to process, but here's the thing. Despair is not an option. We need to understand the challenges, engage in meaningful conversations, and demand better from our leaders. Stay curious, stay engaged, and let's work together to build a better future.